Everyone is a star child, made of stardust and the infinite potential of the universe. This extraordinary field is something in each of us clamors for freedom from the bonds of fear, conformity, and an ordinary life. Welcome to Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot, where practical tools and solutions from the intersection of mind-body medicine, science, and spiritual well-being awaken and empower you to live out your infinite potential, to live life in the sweet spot. I'm your host, Dr. Balin A. Durr, and welcome to Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot. Today, we are doing the Unapologetically Real segment, where we have those conversations where we go deep and we talk about those things that are meaningful to us, that really matter. And today's conversation is actually where we're talking about loneliness, and particularly the World Health Organization has said that loneliness has a global impact. Frankly, it has hit epidemic levels in some countries. As a matter of fact, the World Health Organization has declared loneliness to be a pressing global health threat. So joining me for the conversation today is my reoccurring guest, Portia Carney.
Hi, Dr. Balin.
Hey there, Goddess Portia. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic, Goddess. Yes.
So of course, I'm glad that you're here. And, these are these conversations where you and we just basically take the conversations that we, have in all camera, our girl talks.
Yes. I keep it real moments.
Yeah, I keep it real moments and let the audience listen in, right?
Yes.
So, you and we were talking about the healing work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I tell folks I don't try to front. Is I'm on my own journey, I'm on my own path, and therefore I'm doing my own healing work, right? And I work to clear out, I should say, expand my awareness, deepen my understanding, and get the jacked up thinking out my head too.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Ooh, that jacked up thinking.
Yes. Say, ooh, it'll take you some places you don't want to go, and if you do go, you certainly don't want to stay.
Right, and that is so true. Ooh.
So yeah,
healing, not healed.
What?
I said that's the healing and not healed part of the healing journey.
Okay. So for those folks who may have not had the pleasure, Portia Carney, she has an MBA and she is a manager actually for a major financial institution. And she is also my goddess friend, and who I have immense admiration for.
Same here, Goddess. Same here. I told you gave me my entire life back.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for saying that. And it has been my pleasure. Really, it's been my pleasure.
And I appreciate that, and all jokes aside, just how we always keep it real with one another. One of the things I never saw was how I was showing up. And I'm more conscious of it now after you've helped me discover how I was showing up via my trauma. So once you helped me identify my traumas and, giving me some tools to use to try to work past them and heal through them, it has been an incredible journey. It really has. And it has been, the first part wasn't as bad.
You mean it was, it wasn't all jokes and giggles.
No, no, look, no, 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 it wasn't. It wasn't all jokes and giggles. However, when you're on a path of healing, one thing you have to be is honest with yourself, and you can't make excuses for your behaviors. You can't justify them. You have to take ownership of everything you do because you're conscious and you know. So, this part of the healing journey, I feel like it goes in segments. So, like, it's your discovery,
Hmm. So wait,
and
hold
then,
on a second. We have to tell you this because you said something and I started smiling, and that's because a recent guest of mine, Scott L. Stewart,
mhm.
Scott said, he said, yeah, 'cause he's like, once you know something, you can't unknow it because then you're just playing yourself.
Right. Because then you have to look at yourself like, now you know better. And when you know better, you should do better. And if you don't do better, you should personally feel convicted that you're not doing the right thing. You know?
Well, although I think though is really what he was saying though too was is once you know, you can't pretend that you don't know.
Right. Yeah. I
And
agree with that.
yeah, so I think that's really what he was saying. He's like, because then you're playing yourself. So when you said
Mhm.
that, that's why I started. That's why I started smiling when you said once you know, you can't
Yeah.
So I think to your point, obviously you're right, right? It's but I also think that part of what makes the healing difficult is frankly the fact that is of course we got the blueprint. Many years ago I used to call it the tape. So we get
Hmm.
the blueprint that we get from our family, and we're not even aware that we're getting it. So I think we just should be compassionate and be patient with ourselves about that, as we work through the healing journey, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. You do. Uh you have to give yourself grace. However, see, for me, I say give myself grace, but then to me, in my brain, that translates into, okay, well, I'm giving myself an excuse, to act that way. I don't know how to accept the grace as I go through my healing journey because in my mind, I know what the problem is. Let me fix it right here, right now. Because if I go back to repeating those behaviors, then I'm using grace as an excuse to repeat the behavior when I need to know how to give grace. So telling me to give grace is still the same as calling me a victim. you know, like I couldn't, that's what it translates to me. But I'm getting better at understanding that things do take time, healing takes time. And I thought, the first part, you're great with it. You're like, yes, I'm in this. I'm so excited about healing until you start hitting those segments. It's easy to heal
Hmm.
when you are not in the face of all of your triggers or your reminders.
Girl,
You
it
still
is so
can
easy.
heal.
It is so easy to be spiritual when you by yourself.
That part. So, like any reminders or triggers I had that stemmed from work, that was easy for me to deal with because I have to go to work. So I have to make this happen. There's no two ways about it. And I have to be there every day. So having that reminder every day made it easier for me to deal with it because it was something I could say, you already know what this is. So don't think about it anymore. But as it pertains to relationships now, my sisterhoods are fine. That's the one area I say you pick great female friends. Like I love my sisterhoods, hence Dr. Goddess. However, when it comes to the other species, hmm,
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. They're not a different species.
yeah,
They
when it comes to the
gender.
male, when it comes to the male friends and things of that nature,
Uh-huh.
yeah, that's where I struggle. So through my healing
Wait, wait,
journey,
wait. So women are from Venus, men are from Mars.
yeah.
Or
Yeah,
you know
some
what?
men are from Venus too, however. And I think some of us are from Mars as well. I think I have a little Mars in me at times too, but
Absolutely.
through the journey, through the healing journey, you're so busy protecting your peace.
Mhm.
Well, that's what I was doing because that's what I needed, that I didn't guard my heart. And that was something I recently discovered.
So, you know, that's interesting because one of the things is, and I want to, you know, make sure that we, um, you know, in terms of just the connection, because of course, you know, I know we actually both wanted to talk about too about how in the process of doing the healing
Mhm.
that then, you know, the loneliness and the isolation shows up. and
Mhm.
and I thought that obviously, given the it's, you know, the global impact, it, and also even in the US they're saying it's an epidemic. The
Mhm.
loneliness is an epidemic in the United
Mhm.
States. And so what that looks like in terms of, you know, our healing process, right, as we're trying to work through that. So when you were saying that about not guarding your heart because you're trying to maintain your peace, can you tell me some more about that?
So part of the healing journey, when you're trying to heal, sometimes you have to remove people out of your way, out of your life, because they are part of the traumatic piece of your healing journey. So as a result of that,
Hmm.
for me, I kind of removed quite a few people out of my life, which was fine because those particular people needed to go. But I focused more on, okay, well, I don't want to be around this group of people or these people because of XYZ. And, because they're full of drama or whatever. However, um, what I didn't do was realize that the more I stayed away, the more I became lonely. But the loneliness wasn't for my friendships, it was for companionship. And the loneliness is what I allowed to kind of fade my discernment. It kind of got in the way of my discernment, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I couldn't balance protecting my peace
Wait,
and
wait, wait, wait.
protecting my
Wait,
heart.
wait. See no evil.
Right. You hear it, but you're acting like you don't see it. So a person's telling you who they are, but you
Hmm.
want to see them for who you want them to be.
Uh-huh.
So yes, I'm protecting my peace because this person was very peaceful. We laughed every day. We had a great time. However, when I had to end the connection because of a couple of scenarios that took place that reminded me of my trauma, and I reacted and realizing that this is a place I need to continue to heal.
Hmm.
More loneliness set in, and my heart felt like it was broken when it really isn't broken. It's just back in the garage to be repaired again. But it was the loneliness
Hmm.
that led me, that I allowed myself to be in that situation when I know I wasn't completely healed in the first place.
So yeah, so I think from, you know, a place of, you know, again, like you said, of keeping it real.
Hmm.
The matter is, um, everybody that I know of has gone
Hmm.
through, you know, bouts of loneliness. Yeah, for myself in particular, it definitely has been, and you know, an issue kind of off and on. As a matter of fact, you know, something said I've, you know, shared with people before is that there was a part of me that always in some respects felt like I kind of had one foot in, one foot out. And what I mean
Hmm.
by that is that even in my interactions, you know, with people, there is something there's something about us that while there's some commonality or some common interest, but there's some parts that aren't. And so that's why, even in terms of in high school, I'm in these accelerated classes, and, the folks that I grew up largely with, because then I get bused to a high school because they're integrating the high schools. So they're the folks that I grew up with and live with in community.
Mm-hmm.
But then in high school, but then in the classes, right, a lot of times I'm not with the group of kids that I grew up with.
Right.
And I, stayed with someone actually because I was in advanced math. Then initially there was myself and one other African-American girl, but her family moved at the end of freshman year. So that left me as the only African-American student in the advanced math track for the next 3 years, up into including AP calculus.
Mm-hmm.
So a few years ago, and it's probably been within the last 10 years, a mentor of mine, he said to me, he said, you got set apart at an early age and you didn't even know what it was. And it was painful.
Mm-hmm.
And up until that point, I didn't even have the words to give it language. I didn't know what it was,
Mm-hmm.
didn't understand it. And so what he said was spot on, dead on about what it was and how it felt. And so it was such a relief to be able to hear that and understand that now that somebody was telling me. And I think even since then, that has been my journey to some degree, given what I'm called to do and but also given my mindset, right? Given my consciousness, it's not, in my experience, commonplace, right? There's a certain number of folks that I can connect with, that we can have, these kind of conversations, meaning these kind of deep, thought-provoking conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a lot of folks that I encounter. We can't go that deep. It's 1 or 2 feet of water, and
turn around and go the other way.
yeah, because I tell folks, I live in deep water. I'll come visit shallow water, but I can't stay there.
Right.
So I think then again, in its own way, though, but again, a lot of folks that I know, it's been an issue at some point.
Yeah.
Right? The isolation, the loneliness, and that definitely has been the issue for me. I think a lot of the time. And so, the reason why the loneliness really matters is because, the studies have shown, and even the U.S. Surgeon General last year, put out a report, just talking about how concerned he was about the issue of loneliness, because obviously it clearly has an impact upon our mental health,
Mm-hmm.
depression, anxiety, sometimes even suicide. But there's also the impact upon our physical health, which is, cardiovascular disease, heart attacks, strokes, dementia, and actually even premature death.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's especially difficult on older Americans. Again,
I can see that.
Premature deaths. And then even they're saying in adolescence is like 5 to 15% of them express feeling loneliness. So it's definitely something that we need to talk about in terms of, what it is, why it is, how it shows up for us. And
Mm-hmm.
I think for you, in terms of the way we were talking about it, was particularly, again, as you said, in light of the fact that, now that you decided that you want to stop breaking and entering, you want to start building. You want to start building some houses or some buildings,
right?
Instead of breaking in the houses and the buildings. So there's that part where you're transitioning from one to the other,
right?
As Master Yoda of Star Wars said, you must unlearn what you have learned. And so so then now you got to go through the Jedi trials.
Mm-hmm.
Through the trials, and and the trials, of course, is that's what tests you to
Yep.
see if you how much you're unlearning what you've learned, and how much of the new stuff are you not only hearing but you're actually incorporating, but also practicing, right?
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
so basically, again, so we, so we're talking about, again, you're talking about, I call them the Y chromosome people, because we have an XX and the men have an XY. So yeah, so I call them the Y chromosome people, because it's that piece that broke off. Uh,
Yes, it is.
so it makes us very different. It makes us very
Very.
different.
Yes.
And but I know you like me, and the truth of the matter is I love men, in particular I love Black men. And
Mm-hmm.
um so despite the differences, there's still a desire to connect. But guess what? But that's the other part. Human beings are hardwired for relationship and connection. It's actually part of our survival mechanism, of the things that we're hardwired to do to perpetuate the species.
Mm-hmm.
Connection and relationship is one of those. So it's not surprising um, that it doesn't feel good when we have to go without it. When you're in love, you get that love cocktail,
Right.
right? You get
Right.
that love cocktail, right? You get that oxytocin and the dopamine and the and the serotonin and maybe some
You
other.
wake up like dun dun dun.
Yes.
It almost, you know what? It almost feels as if it gives you purpose, because a lot of things people do, they do it for that person they love. Well, I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. So let me just give you a quick example. So when I was in that situation, when I was in that relationship,
Okay.
I want to call it, I was doing things I don't like to do. Well, I don't mind doing, but I was cooking. And I was cooking one day and I was like, girl, I don't even recognize you. Like, your stove is on. And I know how to cook. I just don't like to cook. And that takes a lot for me to cook for someone. That's something I do from the heart, because I put a lot into cooking. It's all thought out. Like anything I do for somebody, it's a lot of my energy that goes into it. And I think that's why uh part of when I had to remove the connection or break the connection with the person,
Hmm.
um, I was a little deflated and a little tired because I expend a lot of energy in a relationship, mentally, physically.
Hmm.
I just put a lot into it. Even with my sisterhoods, I'm the same way. Same way with my sisterhoods, because they mean something to me, and therefore it's like, okay, the loneliness came in because one, I think the time of the year it took place too. So I had two deaths in my family, one of which was my uncle, who I was very close to. And then it was the anniversary of my sister's death. So I'm dealing with a lot of loss here. I'm dealing with a lot of then my little car, my car that I love so much, my car died.
Oops.
So, these are the little things that was consistent in my life that are now gone.
Hmm.
And I was like, oh my God, and then this person is here and everything was great because this person responded. He responded to my emotional needs at the time.
Yeah.
And then when these activities or these behaviors he performed took place, and I said, wait, I have to cut this off because I was responding to that. And I didn't want to respond to that. I didn't like the way I was responding. So that's when I realized these are the areas that you need more help, that you need to more or less heal in. You need more time to heal in these areas because you are going back to what you know and how you used to react. And that is not what you want to do. So I personally had to just remove the connection because I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be the person who I was. The point of me now is to unlearn, and I'm continuously reminding myself through those behaviors of what I know, and that's what I don't want to know. I want to forget those things. So I had to
You
take
want
a
to stop
step,
breaking and entering?
breaking and entering. I want to clear my record. I tried to get that part expunged off of my relationship record now.
Oh, Lord.
No more of that. Now we have to do things the right way in a more peaceful manner.
Yeah.
So I did. And I was really sad for a minute. I was, because I really, really grew to appreciate this person. Like, really did. I mean, there was not a day. We didn't argue. We had great times, those deep conversations. We laughed all the time. We were like the best of friends.
Mhm.
But I had to remove all of that in order for me to heal properly, because if not, then I'm still caught up in the parts that I don't want. I'm accepting what I don't want, more or less settling because I like what's happening over here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's, to your point. So, and I remember some years ago, someone said that, when you end the relationship or you're, not in love with the person anymore, she's like, you go through withdrawal. And, and, and I think that that's probably a reasonable description of it, because now all of a sudden, again, that cocktail that you were pumping out when you were in love with the person, now
Mhm.
all of a sudden you're not pumping it out to the same level, and so those chemicals are not available in the same amounts as they were before, and so
Mhm.
yeah, all the feel good, it just went whoop. uh,
Mhm.
so it makes sense, but it also makes sense then that when we're not in relationship and we're not pumping out those chemicals, that we do feel bad, and human beings, that we don't tolerate feeling bad for long periods of time. We go
Right.
try and do something that helps pump out those chemicals, that dopamine, so we can get that feel good hit. So whether it's relationships, or whether it's sex, or whether it's alcohol or cocaine or marijuana or shopping, or gambling, or whatever activity that we're engaging in excessively in order to get that
Mhm.
feel good, we usually do something. And so I think that it's it's um it's as you were talking about, it's really important to be aware of that, so that when we get in that space,
Yes.
because again, there are times when I struggle with loneliness also,
Mhm.
is that, so we're not um saying, here comes Pookie, here comes
Right.
Juba, here comes Bob, here comes whomever, and we go, okay, these are my standards. However, I'm feeling so lonely, or I'm feeling so desperate, or I'm feeling so, what I really want is never going to show up, that
Right.
I'm going to settle for what has shown up, even though it's not a good fit, and frankly sometimes it's a poor fit.
Yeah.
um, and when we do that, while it may be a bad fit, I promise you it's going to be a real good lesson.
And it is. And then and the whole thing of it for me was the lens that I see things now is not grayed out like it was before, where I couldn't see myself. I can see myself. And I can look through a window in a mirror and actually see myself, because before I couldn't, because I was never in tune with who I was.
Mhm.
Now that I'm more in tune with who I am, and I've learned to love me more, this became a situation where I really chose me this time. And before, I would not have done that. I would not have done that. And I would have stayed too long in the situation. I would have made excuses for it by saying, well, everybody comes with something, which they do. However, everyone does come with something, but in my heart, I knew I was settling. But this person was 10 times better than the last person. So I keep saying, God, you keep getting closer and closer and closer. One day I feel like if I keep getting these $20 scratch offs and I'm winning $50, eventually I'm gonna buy another $20 and get the million. You know, it's like I'm getting closer. I'm getting closer. But the whole point is not to keep, but you don't keep going through the same process.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm seeing myself more and more, and I'm like, this you don't want to go down this path. So what you really need to do, Portia, is you really need to just get a grip on you, deal with the loneliness, find you other things to do, and just be patient during the process. That's it. Just
Yeah.
be patient during the process. I have to heal my heart, and I wasn't giving myself a chance to do that. I wasn't.
All right. So I tell you what, let's take a break on
Mhm.
that note. Heaven abounds in you, enlightens, uplifts, inspires, and invites you to live a life that's engaged, joyous, and limitless, the sweet spot of life. Take this journey in oneness. We are and have all that God, the infinite creative source of the universe, is. You are infinite potentiality, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. Heaven abounds in you. Hi, Dr. Balin A. Durr here, the host of Dr. Durr's Living in the Sweet Spot. And before the break, I was discussing with my guest, Portia Carney, loneliness. And again, the World Health Organization has declared loneliness to be a pressing global threat. And here, we've also, I'm sure many of us have heard too, they actually hear in the United States that loneliness is actually an epidemic. So, yeah,
Okay.
so we know that to choose yourself, to choose myself, it takes courage, right? And it takes self-compassion, and it takes self-love. And again, given what the society is going through, it's loneliness is actually not only is it not small in who it's impacting, but it's also the impact of it is huge in terms of the financial and the societal costs, right? We lose
Mhm.
it. I mean, if you're depressed and anxious, the studies have shown for decades, there's the lost wages, there's the lost productivity, there is, so again, both for the individual and for the companies on organizations, and for the society. Now there's an increase, on the high end of things in terms of there's a 50% increased risk of
Mhm.
dementia for older folks when they're isolated and alone. So, so what are some of those things that have actually contributed to loneliness? And this was going on actually even before the pandemic, which of course has just made it worse.
Right.
So one, the society has undergone a whole lot of change. Two, people are very mobile. Three, then there's the our devices and social media, and those kind of changes in behavior. They can be unsettling. They can be frightening. They can be, and just and so then how do we readjust to that, right? The way that we were and the way that we're interacting with each other has also changed in terms of we're not necessarily in the same physical space, and a lot is lost from that, right?
Yeah.
As great as this is, to see you on camera, guys, the fact of the matter is, and you and I have such a relationship and a rapport and a connection that it kind of compensates for this, but it's still different than when you and I are together and we're in the same
Right.
room vabbing off of each other, right? And
Right.
there's the eye contact, and there's ooh, girl, what you wearing? And I said, I got on the paparazzi jewelry today. You got on the paparazzi jewelry today. So, we go to the whole girl thing. And see,
Right.
I see you over here in those, in those, when it's, those boots or those shoes or
Or
whatever
what
the
outfit do you have
outfit
on?
is.
Let me see. Oh, let me see. Oh,
Yes.
Again, you're doing it again.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that whole thing that takes place in our interactions with each other when we're in the same room
Yeah.
versus when we're on a device. And then sometimes other folks are not real good about, when they're together,
Hmm.
being with that person, right? People are on their phones or they're on their devices. So they're engaged with social media instead of engaging, with the person, people that they're with. And so I think that there's those aspects, but I think, and I'm just going to go there. I think that fundamentally, really the issue is how am I going to be connected to you and deeply to you when I'm chasing after you or chasing after whomever the you represents
Hmm.
to fulfill my needs, to love and value me. But the real issue is I'm disconnected from me. I'm not tuned into me. I'm not loving me. I'm not valuing me. So I'm really asking somebody to do for me what I'm not willing to do for myself. So again, I think the answer lies in I need to spend time connecting with me, saying, what do I think? How do I feel? What
Hmm.
do I want? And then going about figuring out not only the answers to those questions, but also the but then also actually taking action upon the solutions that I identify. So if I'm not, again, so I think that part is key, but I also think part of the frustration about being with myself
Hmm.
or that sense of being alone,
Hmm.
because again, you can be in a room full of people and still feel alone. So the issue is the lack of connection, right?
Yeah.
It's the lack of rapport. It's the lack of, you know, uh, a lack of relatability
Right.
whomever I'm with. And again, I think but that starts with me with myself. So
Right.
what do you think about that?
I agree with you on that. I do, because if you're not in tune with yourself, if you don't know what you like or what you love or who you are, your connections with people are based on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you're adjusting to connect with them based on them, but not based on you and your needs.
Well, yeah. So I think what I hear you saying is, number one, then I potentially am in denial about the how equipped they are or unequipped they are
Hmm.
to actually be in relationship with me. And then I'm in denial about that. And then I'm trying to shape them, change them, influence them, whatever, to be who I want them to be in order to meet my needs. And
Right.
the truth of the matter is then I'm not relating to them in an authentic way. Um, or another way to say it is coming from a place of unconditional love because I'm looking to you to try to get some need met. And
Right.
I'm not saying we don't get needs met, but what I'm saying is, but it's more of an issue if one, I'm not clear about who I am and what's a good fit for me.
Right.
I'm not coming from a place of wholeness and completeness and connection to myself and loving on me and fulfilling me. And so I'm looking for somebody else to do for me what I'm not willing to do for myself or don't think I can do for myself.
Right.
And so then I'm using them in order to meet my needs. And it may not be a loving thing to do because they may not be equipped and or willing.
Right. Especially when they tell you they're not.
Ooh, girl, come on.
Especially when they tell you they're not. And you revamp that to what you want it to be based on what they're showing you. So you interpret that as something else in your mind. And you're like, no, give you an example. If a man tells you he's not emotionally available and it's because his finances are not in order,
Mm-hmm.
but this person is coming around, let me rephrase that. You are allowing this person to come around and you are being physical and this person's always there, and you are allowing this person in your space 24/7. You're saying, nah, he's emotionally available. We could talk about anything. We
Mm-hmm.
could laugh about anything. Like, we can have these deep conversations. We can go deep. But he already told you that he's not there. But you are making it be what you want it to be based on what the crumbs he's handing you.
Right, right. And so here's the thing, to your point. This reminds me of something that someone a few years back he said to me, and here's what he said to me, and I was like, ooh, I was like, you know what, the women need to hear this. I said, I wish our men would be more honest and from. But here's what he said. He said that that very same thing. If I tell a woman that I'm only available to you up to a certain level, a certain point, that's what I mean. He said so, and he said, here's the truth of the matter is, he said, I only know one speed. So when I make love to a woman, it's the same way whether I'm in love with her or not. And so if I tell her that I don't want to be in a relationship or only to this degree, that's what I mean. And the fact that I can only go one speed when it comes to lovemaking doesn't change that. And I was like,
That's it.
or women need to.
That's it right now. Because
Right.
that's the same as what was said to me. I'm the same in all relationships. And that was the phrase right there that said that part.
Mhm.
Because
He said that part.
I'm not all of those women in your past. So how can you be the same with me? And why would I accept that when I'm not them? So that said to me was, I don't care what you guys require. I don't care what any woman requires. I'm going to be me in all of these relationships that I'm in.
Right. And guess
And,
what? They should be. So the
right.
issue is the issue, especially as you said, if they're being honest and telling you what it is,
Mm-hmm.
then we need to accept their truth
Yep.
and take action accordingly.
Yep.
But I think the thing that, again, that to your point, that we get confused about the fact that their behavior can seem to indicate a level of interest that conflicts with what their words are saying. And
Yep.
so trying to tease that out can be challenging, right? The same way if somebody is saying, I love you, but they're unavailable or they're
Right.
not available much. And what I say to people is really important to understand that love can be unconditional. I can love you for no reason, but relationship is absolutely conditional.
Conditional.
It's
Conditional
absolutely
upon the fact that you treat me right.
it's
You,
conditioned upon behavior.
yours.
Right? It's
Yes.
conditioned
Yep.
upon behavior.
Yep.
And that's what like-mindedness is we have the same values, we have the same standards, we want the same things, and we go in the same place. That's how you in relationship with people, right?
Right.
And I
And
and I
that's why it's
say,
called a relationship, because we relate on this ship that we're traveling on to get to this journey that we both want, to this destination that we both want to be on.
but the same destination. It's got to
Yes,
be
the
the same
same
destination,
destination.
right? The
Yep.
same destination.
Yep.
So I think there are a few things, a number of things, though, that we can do. One, to create connection with ourselves and connection with other people. So, one of the things that I think that we can do is, one, I really think that we need to spend time being with self and
Mhm.
asking those questions that matter. Who am I? What are my values? What are my standards? Again, what destination am I looking to get to? And then
Yep.
evaluating partners based upon, are we like-minded or not? Do we want the
Right.
same values? Or another way, I used to say this in terms of the men. I would say to them, would Michelle Obama have picked your man? Or to the women, would Barack
Right.
Obama have picked your woman? Right. Because I'm saying it's based upon values and standards, right?
Right.
My idea, my vision of what a partner is and what's going to work for me and what's not. So I need to spend time again loving me unconditionally. That means for no reason at all, except that I exist. I am a unique, wonderful expression of the universe, uniquely and designed and purpose. And therefore, I have value and I am deserving.
That's
And
right.
learning to love me, learning to value me, learning to pour on me, and what do I need, and giving that. And which reminds me, the other thing too, I forgot to say earlier. I think the other reason when it comes to love, why it is so difficult, we see it is that we're looking to get, but I think really what it is we feel frustrated because we don't have someone to receive the abundance of love that we want to give to somebody. And it's an amazing experience when you are able to give love to someone who then is receiving of it in that way and then gives it back to you. That
Right.
flow of energy is outstanding.
Incredible.
It is an experience unlike any other, right?
Yes. And I
So
feel like I've never experienced that love. I've never experienced true love. And I mean true love where it is equally reciprocated. I've never done that. I've never had the opportunity to experience that. And most importantly, it's not because others were incapable. It was because I wasn't loving myself. So in me not loving myself, I didn't know how to express the love that I needed, or I couldn't discern what was good love and what was bad love, if that makes sense. And so when I started loving myself and getting more in tune with me, that's when I created my boundaries, what my heart knows I'm not dealing with that, you know.
mhm.
And it's like I heard Dr. Ayanla say, she was in a relationship with a man.
You talking about Iyanla Van Zant?
Hmm.
Okay.
She said she was in a relationship with a man,
Mhm,
and he didn't know how to love her. She said, I don't have a right to tell a person how to love me. But
mhm.
what I did know was the way that he loves was not the way that I wanted to be loved.
Okay.
So I broke the relationship off. And that resonated. That's what was my driving force this time. It was like, you don't want to speak my love language. It's simple.
Mhm.
And you have an option to do so, but you don't love the way I like to love. You want to love me the way you want to love me. And that's not me receiving love. That's you giving me what you want me to have. Whereas I'm going to love you in your love language and mine, because
Mhm.
they seem to like both. So if you're not willing to love me in my love language, I'm not trying to teach you how to love me. I want to see you do it naturally. And if you can't do it naturally, then it's not in you to do it. So I don't like the way you love. So therefore, I have to let this go because I just don't like it.
I get it. It doesn't work. It doesn't work for you. I
It
absolutely,
does.
I absolutely get what you're saying. So I think, and you know what, I'll tell you something. It is rare, and I knew it at the time when I experienced it. That many years ago, I was in a relationship with someone, and we were like male and female versions with each other. And about you talk about amazing. Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God. And it was very healing for me because the things I admired about him, I quickly realized that I had those same characteristics.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, it helped elevate my value of myself and also my confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely get what you mean when you say that. And I also know that it was a love that was rare. And I also know that it was something that many folks may never experience it their whole lifetime.
Right.
But I also recognize that we were on different paths. And so it was for a period in time, but it was not forever.
Right.
So I think that's the other part that's important for us to recognize. So again, I think, we need to figure out what are those things that we need to do, again, to create connection with ourselves. And that
Yeah.
means you got to spend time with and get to know each other's selves. You got to feed yourself what it is you want, consistent with that. But I
That's
think
right.
that also, even in creating relationships, again, with other folks, in terms of to bridge the loneliness, how do you do about one of the ways you do that is that you are intentional, right? When I
Mhm.
get with this person, and to me, really mindfulness to me is about freeing my mind so
Yeah.
I can fully embrace the magnificence of what is, and the possibilities, right?
Yes.
The magnificence of what is, and the possibilities. And so if I'm fully engaged with you, as opposed to thinking up in my head, I got such and such to do, or such and such I forgot to do, I'm on the phone, I'm on my phone. That's not engaged with the other person. That's not creating relationship and rapport. So I think you have to set some times aside for that. I think
Mhm.
that another way to do it, though, is when we're feeling lonely. What do they say? If you want a friend, then be a friend.
Right.
If you want a friend, then be a friend. That's the way to get a
Right.
friend, is to be one.
Yeah.
So another way is, so how do I serve? How do I serve somebody else? And in serving others, in that way, that
Mhm.
then I end up serving myself, because now I'm connecting, and I'm
Right.
creating relationship, and I'm creating rapport. You have any other thoughts about ways to go about doing that?
You really do. You spend time with yourself. You figure out, like, in my journey of loneliness, what components where am I lonely? You know, and what so if it's companionship, then I have to be honest with myself and say, hey, you're going to be lonely here for a minute because it's stuff you need to work on. So you figure out the capacity for which you're lonely. Two, what do you need to do to close that gap? So if it's continue to heal in spaces, continue to get to know yourself more, you have to be okay with spending that time. You have to be okay with going through the process of preparing yourself to come out of the period of loneliness, but into the right space, not the space that you choose out of loneliness and your space of desperation where you're right back where you started from again.
Right, but I
You know,
think, part of that too, of what but is also, we have to change. What you're also saying is changing our mindset and our
changing
perspective.
our mindset.
I
Yes.
change it from I'm alone or lonely to I am with myself. And
I'm
that's
going
not
through the
just and that's
process.
not just
Yes.
semantics, because that means going to a deeper place
Yes.
of connecting with myself. But it also means going to a deeper place of connection, from understanding that I'm composed of energy, so everybody else and everything else in the
Mhm.
universe is. Therefore, I'm connected to everything, and I'm never alone. Not not
Right.
in its essence and its core. So I think we have to change that, to in terms of our way of thinking. But as you are also saying, then recognize that this process that I'm going through is necessary,
It's
and it's
necessary.
preparing me for what it is that I really want, right?
Right.
Because I can want to be a doctor, but it's not going to go too well if I haven't gone to medical school and done a residency and got a license and done all those things that
Right.
prepared me to be a quality doctor providing quality care, right?
Yes.
It's not going to go well for a patient if I haven't done the preparation. So I think um, that you're dead spot on. And so another way of saying that is what is the benefit for me of this time with myself. And I remember the other thing too. I remember telling you some years ago, I was driving to work one morning and I busted out laughing. And the reason for that was because I was thinking,
Mhm.
you know, um, you know, God, I'm by myself. I'm not in a relationship. And, I asked you for somebody. I said, but I asked you that I busted out laughing. The reason I busted out laughing was because I realized, oh, God had given me what I asked for, which was peace of mind.
Yeah.
It's just that, but it didn't look the way I wanted to look. What it was I didn't have some knucklehead bothering the hell out of me.
Right. Right.
But it just wasn't in a relationship. So
Right.
it's again, like you said, learning to accept and be okay with the process.
And the other piece to it too, Balin, is in those moments of loneliness, deal with the emotions that you feel at that time. Because if you try to suppress it, it's only going to make going through the process harder. You have to cry. You have to be okay with laughing to yourself. You have to go through those periods. It's like we said when we was having a conversation. If I go to the dermatologist and I want some medication for acne, I'm going to have an outbreak before I have the breakthrough.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with the outbreak before you get the breakthrough, the outbreak of tears, the outbreak of hurt, the pain. You can't let it take over you. You just have to recognize it, own it, and again, understand it's part of the process towards the breakthrough of beautiful skin. So that's the other piece too that's very important.
Yeah, your breakdown will lead you to your breakthrough.
Yes.
So Miss Portia, just really quickly, how can people reach you?
Ooh, mostly on Facebook. I'm a Facebooker, so my page is pour_peer. That's the one I operate off of.
And is that where because I mentioned this earlier in our conversation, I'm wearing the paparazzi jewelry, you wearing the paparazzi jewelry because you're a paparazzi jewelry consultant. Is that how they also connect with you if they want to get some, because I'm telling y'all this, I have a number of her pieces, and despite the fact that they are inexpensive, they look good, and they look good on, and you will not be disappointed.
Thank you. Yeah, there's a VIP group. It's called Portia Secret, Your $5 Jeweler. And I'm there too. That's where I showcase most of the jewelry.
Okay. So guys, I thank you so much for being with me today. And of course, we gonna do this again.
Absolutely. We're gonna be on the phone too, probably tomorrow. So my girl, but I thank you most importantly because I could not have reached this second phase. So I appreciate you showing me how to go through this journey, giving me the tools to go through the journey, because you're the best. You are.
Well, say you are so welcome, and I didn't want you to have to keep using your money for bail money. Getting
them records expunged. Yeah.
So, and just for those folks, I'm speaking metaphorically, y'all.
Right. It's not true. I haven't been to jail yet, but I haven't been. I am going.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. We just learning a different way. We're getting some new tools, and where you're learning to use the tools in a different way. And so I thank you for sharing the journey with me, and again, how you have contributed to my own growth and transformation. It's and just joy. It's an absolute joy with you.
Same here with you. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So again, I am Dr. Balin A. Durr, awakening and empowering you to live out your infinite potential, to live life in the sweet spot. I'll see you next week. Thank you for joining us today in the sweet spot. Share, follow, and like us on social media. To learn more, please visit BalinADurrMD.com, spelled BalinADurrMD.com. Join us next week, and remember, when you heal your mind, all things are possible.